Hello and welcome to World Focus. I'm Blase Bonpane, your host. You know, the whole world craves peace. And here we are in the midst of ongoing wars. We're at a time when international law has become essential. The laws of the nations, laws of the United States, can do nothing to save the ocean. And you know, when you think about it, there's really only one ocean. That's it. We're practically all ocean, and it has different names in different parts of the world, but it can't be saved by the laws of the United States. And the same applies to the air. Do you think the United States can save the air? Its laws cannot. The air is a very delicate gas. Just think about it for a little bit. It has some oxygen in it. If it had more oxygen and you lit a match, the whole thing would go up at once. But it has just enough oxygen for us to breathe, but not too much to explode or to ignite at one time. So we are in danger of losing the air. Now, if we lose that, we lose the people. So the time has come for a very serious consideration about international law. And international law has been a popular thing for over a century. People began to gather in 1900 at The Hague in Holland to say, you know, we must not have any more wars. So we must foster an international system. And that began the 20th century, which unfortunately was marked by a horrible war called World War I. We began to engage in that war 3 years after it started. We came in rather late, and millions died in that unnecessary war. And the word unnecessary goes along with the word war throughout history. Wars are not necessary. World War I was such a horrible event. People still trying to say what it was about. And that's often common with wars. People really can't tell you what they were about. The soldiers don't know what it's about. The generals don't know what it's about. The politicians don't know what it's about. And still historians are saying, what was World War I about? Well, in the wake of World War I, there was formed a League of Nations. The concept of the League of Nations was to have no more wars, to have an international peace entity that could intervene between two conflicting nations to bring about a settlement and peace through diplomacy. Well, it's sad to say, but history tells us that by 1920, the League of Nations was destroyed by the Senate of the United States. Why? Because in 1920, we felt, look, the British Empire is not what it was. We helped to save them in World War I. We'll be the ones to decide everything for the world from now on. So we don't want a League of Nations. We'll make all the decisions necessary for the world without a league. So the international law plan of the League went, and it actually just failed. It's a sad thing to say, because Germany was crushed to the ground in World War I. The German people were despondent, and they were not being helped after World War I. So they looked for and found a fanatic, Adolf Hitler, who said, this is the master race. We are going to pull ourselves up again, and we will be the ones to rule the world. Well, that was very sad, leading up to World War II. If there had been a League of Nations, there would have been no World War II. It would have been stopped the moment Adolf Hitler began to expand his empire. There was a World War II, the most horrible military event in the history of the world. And in the wake of that war, we saw the development of the United Nations. Mrs. Roosevelt had a great deal to do with the formation of the United Nations. She also had a great deal to do with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Once again, we were back to the concept of international law. And the world was quite excited about it. And it created a great interest in peace, and we signed a treaty. That is, by we, I mean the United States signed a treaty regarding the Charter of the UN. Now, a treaty becomes part and parcel of the Constitution of the United States. To break a treaty is to break the Constitution. So we signed that treaty, and the UN went on with the objective of ending war forever. Unfortunately, the same hostile forces within our government that destroyed the League of Nations were very hostile toward the United Nations, still thinking we can rule the world as United States. 5% of the world's people, or less than 5%, can tell the other 95% what to do. We were dead wrong. This led to a horrible conflict after World War II, which is known as the war in Korea. It may surprise people to know that that war is not over. There was no peace treaty. There has been no peace treaty. There was a ceasefire between the North and the South of Korea. We used the manipulation, we manipulated the UN in that war to put their name on it, calling it a UN police action. Thousands of our young men died there, over 50,000. And it's the unknown war. People today seem to have forgotten about the war in Korea, which began in 1950. And once again, many people were arguing what it was about. We said North Korea invaded South Korea. North Korea said South Korea invaded North Korea. A typical thing to happen when a war begins, that people on two sides are saying two different things because someone wanted the war. And this is the sad part. Wars are generally started by some sort of contrivance. That there would have been no war if it weren't for the contrivance by people who wanted the war.